Yana radio mbulando vatanda mai rongo de tiko ana tavi ser mai beretona dhanra komo ana. Kota mai kina ngona ni sa sivitonga na ono and rua na miniti me baka kero baka reita ka tiko nia kero vital no taka tiko ani ni ndasana mai rongo de tiko and Rongothi tiko e nei kawini kua na non te programo wakarotaki e na we madhawa ka wakatokai tiko na wakailavo e na wakarombuka se na Finance Friday. Ka nda wakavinawinaka tiko kina e na e kawini kua ni nanda wulangin dokai tiko o Brad Hamada kemnia sa we kemni nanda wakamuri tiko mai na nanda programo e na we singa se na we madhawa o ni sana rere na numatiko na vida na madhawa sa wati ki roa mai tau ia wutaka tiko yani ki Brad Hamada na nonda ngona wata. And we are kawini wakarombuka e wakatokai tiko na Finance Friday. And I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome Brad once again to our Finance Friday. Mbula vinaka, Brad.
All right, thank you for having me.
How are you this afternoon? This evening, actually. It's after 6.
I am doing great. Things are a little bit shaky right now in the economy, but when you have financial education, you're in good shape.
So true, so true. And that's why, once again, we are grateful that you're able to come on our show and kind of enlighten us a little, enlighten our audience, our community, our Fijian community, especially like I've shared with you always that in our culture, we, most of us, I would say the majority of us just grew up knowing that, not really, maybe I'd say not really taught to save money, on the importance of saving money. Our culture is such where, it's all about communal living and we just live for today. Tomorrow will take care of itself. But we do realize that being here in the United States and for all of our listeners listening in from other overseas countries, also probably going through the same thing. We know that it is important to think of retirement. Because once again, I would just like to also share, Brad, that our culture, like I said, communal living, which means that we don't really worry about retirement. For us, that's what we have our children for. That's what we have our grandchildren for, right? And but living here in the United States and the fact that most of us are here doing caregiving, we know that it is important to start thinking retirement. So you being the finance professional, I would say, what would you say to our community in terms of retirement? When should one start thinking retirement? When is the ideal age? When should we start having that conversation?
So that's a great question, and I get that question a lot from not just people of Fijian descent, but everyone. They ask, when should I start? And my answer to that is, it's not necessarily about starting to save money or how much you can save, but a lot of it is about building your habits. And so what I find a lot of times is when people make money, let's say you get a job in high school, you make money and you spend money. And you start, you just make money to spend it, and you start to build that habit so that later on, when you start to make more money, you just spend more money. And I always believe that, no one in their right mind is ever going to blame you for saving too much. And for a lot of people, when they start to save, I say, start simple. Start saving like 10%. So if you make $1,000, can you save $100? Right? If you make $2,000 a month, can you put aside $200? And that's the start. And I think that once you start to build that habit, many people build the habit of spending and they are addicted to spending. And I tell people, just like spending can be addictive, so can saving.
Which is
and
a
I
good
don't think
addiction.
a lot of people, yep. Like I tell people, I'm addicted to saving money. I care so much about my daughter and so much about my future, and I just want to save more. Right? And so I do save money. I do spend money, but I also make sure that I save before I spend. And that is a mindset that you can teach yourself and that you can develop over time if you are disciplined.
Thank you. So saving money, you're saying that if we, like for our children, for instance, here we're here with our children, our grandchildren, so it's really just teaching them the mindset.
Yes. And the tricky part, though, I think, is that like you said, the Fijians have very communal living. But then when you move to the US here, you realize the culture is much different.
Mm-hmm.
And things are much more expensive and a little bit out of whack. And so, when they say when in Rome, do as the Romans do, right?
So
And so
true.
when you come to the US here, things do change and cultures need to adapt a little bit to what the general population here does.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that is starting to become more financially educated, to think more about your generation, the next generation, and future generations.
Mm-hmm. And I think that I could rightfully say, Brad, that for us, we really have no excuse because we come here and that's most of us. Like I would say, majority of us, we get to the U.S. What do? We do caregiving, and of course, when we're caregiving, we're taking care of the elderly. We know that there's money coming from somewhere for them to be able to help to pay us, right? They're no longer working, but somehow they did something back in the days that enabled them to be able to pay us to take care of them. So that in itself is an eye opener, and that's why I say we really don't have any excuse. Nui taka, so I'm just gonna go off in Fijian, Brad, if you don't mind. Nui taka weekend to na sema tiko mai na kabini kua weekend to na geli rongoda tali tiko na programungo do mbiu tiko ya na YouTube na wakailabo and na wakarumbuka ni rau ni na viva kungeti tiko weekend to ndo na tiki na mbimbi tuko na go Brad, where saving is addictive and can be addictive and should be addictive, right, Brad? Whereas for us, it's more like spending. We just like to take care of each other. If there's a function, what do we do? What do Fijians do? We go all out to take care of the function, to make sure we look good to our other extended families and friends, and then we can come home and maybe have bread and tea for the whole week because there's no money left. And one of our fellow listeners here just sharing with us this evening, that and this is the reality of our situation. Lebu weekend, we don't even have $500 saved. And that's the truth. So I hope that with this program that you coming on our show and other financial professionals would really encourage our people to save. Me rauninda na marurui labo menda kilatiko na mbimbi ni marurui labo. Wakaritaka tiko Bread, to start off with 10%. We know, like most of us, Bread are tithe payers. So that's like we're paying one tithing to the Lord. Most of us are Christians. And I think that then the next thing should be, and that's one thing I personally am also struggling with. Like I put my tithing aside, and then the next thing is like, okay, I have all this money. Saving is something that I'm also struggling with. So what would you tell me and tell my other community members here to encourage us? I know that you did say saving is addictive and can be addictive. How did you get to start?
So that's a good question. And I believe most people, I mean, just in general, we're not born knowing how to save money or understanding how money works, right? But what it takes, I tell people that some people feel like, oh, I don't save money. It's going to be very difficult. I say, actually, it is difficult for about the first 30 days. But if you can be disciplined for 30 days and you can build a habit in 30 days, that 30 days can reflect over the next 2 to 3 generations of your family.
I love that.
Right? So a lot of times we think about, oh, it's so hard. I wanted, like today, I wanted to go out and have fast food, but I'm going to be going out of country. And so I'm going to be at the beach. So I don't want to look too, I don't want to look too out of shape. And so I have to focus and make sure that for this period of time. And I tell people 30 days is enough to create a habit that can work for your lifetime, your kids' lifetime, their kids. And that's what's amazing about it. It's not that difficult once you start, but the thought of starting is what stops most people. They think it's going to be difficult. They think it's going to be a struggle forever, so they never start. But those that do start, you'll find out that within about 30 days, maybe 45 days, if you're really hard at it, right? Then you start to say, hey, this isn't that bad. I'm used to it. Okay, I can save this money. And then you start to say, I can actually save a little bit more. And I can save a little bit more, and I can save a little bit more. And it starts to grow from there. But I tell people, you have to give yourself a chance. You have to commit for a short period of time for the next, let's say 30 days, and really focus on making that your priority to save money instead of spend. And you'll see your habits start to change very quickly.
I love that. That's just really simple and doable. 30 days. Tolu sanga bulungan na singa wambuta ni. Don't rendre bekenda tun rendre na marroi labo eh. Ya me bakaba karita ketingo bread. Tolu sanga bulungan na singa to tekubu to tobolea and na rawa na lakolanga bakami tu sana li maru takamai will get to enjoy seeing our money growing, right? And thank you to all the listeners. Bikim do kaya na sema tiku mai neka vini kua kaya bakai tiku nam do bakita taro membaleta na ilabo se na kena rawa se dabang beka rawa ni na bia kilai na buku ni maruru ilabo se na rawa kadaba na maruru ilabo rawa ni ninge ibolato kamai ni bola binaka isoa batura ramba. So just a question from one of our listeners here, Brad, just asking Brad, how would he differentiate or elaborate more on the difference between saving and investing?
Okay, so I say generally they're very similar. The first thing that it requires is that we save, right? So that's kind of the first step. So just, we can't invest if we don't have money. So I say the first beginning, you're just starting to think about saving money every single day, right? Or you tell yourself, hey, of the money I'm gonna make sure that I save $10 a day. Everyone can save $10 a day if they try. So $10 a day can add up to about $300 a month, right? 30 months 30 days in a month. And once you can discipline yourself to do that for 1 month, right? And you can do it for 2 months, and you start to see that it's not that difficult, then at that point, now that's what I call savings. Now investing is a step further in understanding how money works. And so I believe that having a good community around you is a great way to start to save. But then in addition to having people that support you, you also have to have people that are knowledgeable about where to save. And that's where the investing comes in. And there can be short-term investing, mid-term investing, long-term investing. You might need to buy a car in the next year, or send your kids to college in the next 5 years, or retire in the next 20 years. And then the knowledge that you gain from understanding how money works. And I always encourage, people to reach out to Una, and she can connect you with our financial literacy campaign, where you can learn and take workshops and things like that. Through that process, you will learn how to change, like I said, you'll learn how to change generations, not just your own habits.
I love that, Brett. Thank you for bringing that up, because you're talking about changing generations. We're coming in. This is one thing we always talk about in our communities as friends. Like it's like old money. Like all these people that we end up taking care of. Like we're caregivers, right? And some of them were born into money because generations, right? Their ancestors have built up their wealth to a certain point where they can live off of that wealth. And so that's what generational wealth is all about, right? Don't bolo binaktal na sema tigo may nekavinikua and nanonda programungo baka ilabo and bakarombuka dorongo ditiko and beka vini bakarombuka may naono nakaloko. Dona ka kiro may vital no takatiko sen ulutanga kiro may vital no tiko kina kiro may tiko butik takatiko na ni vital no nekavinikua ke bread membaleta tiko na retirement. I know, Brad, that most of us, like, we don't even think retirement until we're like in our 50s, or we know that we are, like approaching that stage where retirement should be a conversation. We don't even talk about that. But I know that being here in the U.S., retirement is really something that we can start with earlier, that we should start with earlier, especially the mindset, right? Can you elaborate a little on that, please? Brad?
Hello?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I missed the last part of what you were saying.
Oh, just elaborating on when should we start thinking retirement?
So everybody, I tell people, we can't turn back the clock. So the best time to start retirement is as soon as possible. Best time to start was last week.
Mm.
But if you didn't start last week, you can start this week. And so here's a rule of thumb is that every about 7 to 10 years costs you half of your retirement. So if you were to start 7 years later, you would only have half of what you had. If you started 14 years later, you would only have half of half. So you would only have 1/4 of what you had. So depending on what you want will just dictate. But I always tell people the sooner you can start and the sooner you can make your money work for you, the more choice you will have with your life. To retire early, to work a little bit longer. So I always tell people start today. Start small, $3 a day, $5 a day, $10 a day, but just start and start to get yourself educated so that as your money starts to save, you start to understand where you can put it and you're not just putting it somewhere where it's not making any money for you.
Thank you, Brad. Can you elaborate also on the vehicles? Maybe that there are some vehicles that we can use as our retirement vehicle, not just
Oh my
putting
gosh.
money in the bank.
So, there are, yeah, it depends on what you're looking for, but typically what I'll tell people is when you're looking to save money, you want to look for vehicles that can save you on taxes. Because long term, what you're talking about is how you manage your taxes. So programs where you pay taxes every year on your money, like savings accounts, those don't tend to do very well long term. But if you're looking at you're looking at retirement and your company may offer programs that have tax deferral. You may have programs available to you. Some of them may even be tax free, right? So I tell people if you want to understand retirement, look at the taxation on it. And so anything that's tax deferred or tax advantaged, I would recommend. So your IRAs, your Roth IRAs, 401ks, things like that are typical retirement vehicles. But again, it depends on your situation about where you should be saving. And I welcome anybody to reach out and ask more specifically. We can sit down and talk one-on-one. I mean, I can't really generalize for everybody.
Right.
But taxes is very important. So depending on how you're going to save your money, you want to save it in the right place to manage your taxes best long term.
Thank you, Brad. So tax deferred, meaning we don't pay taxes on it now, but we do pay taxes when we're collecting or when we're getting that payment down the line, right?
Yes, yeah. So some people call it tax deferred, some people call it tax delayed, right? So you don't pay tax on now, but later on, the tax bill is coming.
Got it. When you're actually like, let's say I'm putting money in this certain vehicle, right? I'm putting money there before I pay my taxes.
Yes.
So then when it's time, like, okay, I'm going to stop working now and I'm going to start to collect money from here, from this vehicle that I had put money into. So it is at that point that I will have to pay taxes on that.
That
money,
is correct.
right?
Yeah.
Onui taka ni sa matata tiko ya me baka bakarita tiko Brad ke baka embele tani dui tu e rambai lebu sara na vitala noa ia o kila ni sarau ni na bakabura baka sama tiko bakalalai na usutu ni vitala noa go me rau ni to sa tiko bu baka sama takarau tiko ni go na dawa ro ni to dakava me embeleta na ngona to sana sianga kina ni daka rawa se to sa sianga ni vea daka kina na kai bimbiti ko na pono to bimbiti kina na nonta to ilabo na tax me to na baka sama takati ko na kena li musu na i baka dava e na ngona to sana le teke bu tata musu kim baka kinai yana beka e mai usu tiko ni robetal no na kavini kua. Time has caught up with us. Brad, thank you so much for being available once again. Is there anything that you would like to share with our listeners as a takeaway for tonight?
Yeah, so I've done workshops everywhere. I've done workshops at libraries, at schools. I've done them at companies. I've done them at churches. And the number one thing I tell people is 90% of people that fail financially fail because they don't start. We can get you all the information, but we cannot make you make the decision to build a stronger future for yourself. Once you do that, you can reach out to Una. We can work with you. We can give you all the information. But I want people to think about, what do you want for your for your life and for your next generation. And once you have that idea, we can come together, we can work on it, and we can help you build it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Brad. Vinaka bakalevu na sema tiku mai ne kawini kua kenge so tali tiku na wakatataro me maleta na wetala noa e ne kawini kua se na nonta programo ina bi wakarambuka nenge we tartaranga mai na radio mbulando wata se una vuninda kua. Brad Hamada mai nonda wulangindo kai tiko e na nonda iwasininga o na ni wakailavo e na wakarambuka. Thank you once again, Brad. Have a blessed week. We will talk again soon.
All right. Take care, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Via wakambula talitikani vikemni na sengei vikemndo na sengei sema po tiku mai ne kawini kua ni sa sivitonga na ono na rua sanga pulu ka tolu na miniti wakambula tikani ve isoa watura ramba vinaka isoa na wakaitavi tiku mai ne kawini kua wakatelanga kina ve tata chosaia ratu ni wailevu mai Auburn ndombula vinaka mai Auburn se mesa vinaka wakalevu na vitoko ni tiku mai ne kawini kua wakatelanga kina ve Miriam lewa monge ni mbula vinaka itu te torda vinaka bakalevu na sema tiko mai waka nui ni vinaka tiko ani kena thidi waka tiko na Kandavu store wakatelanga kena Nambula Fiji Caregiving Agency mai Santa Rosa bula vinaka kini bula koro vinaka bakalevu na sema tiko mai na kawini kua sengatalanga ni ngule dhavi tiko na sera katarawango ama seni loli tale mata kimbao ke kimdo ke desar na sema tiko ngori mai na 5 TV Road mai Kinoya waka nui ni vinaka tiko ani vi kimdo ne kawini kua wakambula talitinga vi kimdo ke desar na sema tiko mai Mbulia mai Ndravuni mai Vambea ndo mbula vinaka.
Found you, Mr. Yeah, bring it back to me. Found you, Mr. Yeah, bring it back to me. Don't
Tikuna sala mirani lele kina numni bakang takana liba ena numdo wale Empower in the Southern California Pacific Islander Community Response Team e bakaru takana program semni some kuiko girmai ena onurua ono saiba dua dio ono.
Bula binaka tinay Matthew, ni sawa kuskusibe.
Isa, ni bula binaka. O se vivi mandongo kina maoli mat. Ele itaka kina endona nito pakataka kana lailai. Me ole uku taka pakatotolo, ni bernirto yadea ni nabulangi.
Oi, o dea bakasanga.
Erto bakasanga telanga orato. Sarara saranga. Go enda so mga nakakana. Eseni nita so manakena bakanga takina olo.
Oi, okay. Binakasaraman da kilatiko.
Maulimad, 5525 Montgomery Drive, Suite 2 and 3, Santa Rosa, California. Veitartara sarani kina naba ni telefoni 12525 saiba vitu tolu 5 vitu. Ena kena itugu matalalai.
Nada be kumarota katiko.
Senga, esan dondi na marau kina voga thingile wo wakila.
Baleta?
Kesa mani kadhibi na nongumbula ke mundo sana senga ni lenga. Dona senga talanga ni rere walo ma se mundo warakati o nila wundrang. Baleta ni swada kabatu na nongu life insurance policy.
Iko da kamu to wakatapea. Sa tumu matanga na numundrang isenga tu na nontu pepa.
Sa tiko na mate, se senga na pepa, senga na lenga. E se rawanganin dua na nongu life insurance ve Lincoln Heritage Life Insurance. Na kambani ni life insurance kanga niti kenda vinaka na itoke kanda sama ivoga tiku ngoya Amerika. Rawa sarana boga leo fomo. Text mai kina vaseva walu vandua, tolu walu lima, ena kena ituku matelalai. Kisando umbulu vinaka. Dosen ga itoki mai, endo benaka tu bangara.
Iyo, ni bula binaka. Kito singi toki bo sarangamay. Sa tutokan dino, Pennsylvania. May pakato muli ang mandoni turtana dadaka na tumbuni wayway. Iya, kito sa mista kasaranga nakakana wakabiti. Kito rongoda, nitugay kendo na stonda bulitagi kenda to kakana.
Iyo, na Fiji Cover Store. Ito kasaranga iliyongori. Nakakede tukina. Na Fiji Cover Store. E kau te viti mai voka po leka ka voka se butaka na voka na nanu. Voli te ki tukina na tinika, tini bulu makau, Taka's Ice Cream, na mateni, na ika, na mbele. Yado kina chase ningu na ngona, na twisties, na bongo, kay na bean, kay na bungatali. Sangay lebu saranga na ngona, kare ang ngona binakandina. Ngay indolo po talanga ango na nondato boutique. E voli te kina na isulu kanta kilaita ni kina daga nilinga, karami soli mo ilaloma. Wei kemani mai Pennsylvania, kena beibu no wale kata. Erau talanga ni wakau tanga mai na nomani ota na telefoni se email, karatau nangai wakau tanga na nomando wali. Yana Fiji Cover Store LLC, 100 South Mount Vernon Avenue, Uniontown, Pennsylvania. Nabani telefoni vitu saiba vitu, wadi orua vitu diwa vitu ono, se vandu lima tolu saiba vitu, diwa rua vitu tolu, se email kena Fiji Cover Store PA@gmail.com. Nungu chisu nungu banua. Dorongode na vima maniono kina vitu ene kawani bugululu we kemadawe California. We mani rua ene kavi kina tolu ene singalewu ni lotilewu we kemadawe viti. E warotaka na New Methodist Christian Fellowship USA. Rongode ene Radio Mbulando vata San Francisco me kauti kenda vatamai. Radio Mbulando vata me kauti kenda vatamai. Mai San Francisco ki burubura. Sema mai ngai wase yani. o gono rongo manupal lisongo nay maolimat. 525 Montgomery Drive, Suite 2 and 3, Santa Rosa, California.
Sa me watonga rua sanga vulu na miniti me vitu na kaloko, matenga ni nonte tukutuku, and wati ni wasi ni ngauna ni rongo mai bal ni songo, weisure titunga na songo ni mataka, ni kua, teko butiko na kabi ni kua, Women's Retreat, step it up, live it out, your faith founded in love, Kalawadake, Kalawayani, Bulataka, na no mo bakambauta me te ana laloma, dali sote ani kina na kabi ni kua, teko mo baka kabi, ni mataka ni katalau bak singa lebu, kena beka erto bakaru takatuna kena liu ser to karto beliu takitiko en nonda songongo na marama en bakaidurutiko mai Sacramento en 572. We kemdo mai Sacramento kendo singirongo tiko ngoni tukutukongo tuli sote ani ni mataka 572 Freeport Boulevard, Sacramento. Yan na Women's Retreat ana bakaidurutiko ni mataka.
La sa lebu au kila na to ro takatala na bi talnoa ni non tu songo da sa lebu turang te lebu ana ka maro ta kichu na katine mbaki America na singa ke te lebu mbaki ngo au kila ni sa ndo do uchi wa soma ana bakadur chu mai lai mai Hawaii sa biu na mainland sa le bakadur na non tok be Hawaii mai lai ana karuni singa ni September mbaki bina ka non turang ro non ro so ko tule singa bo ro ichi go ya kila di ni lebu rasa nana ma chu kine ke ba sange rongo ni se ni ngong ngo sa ba kan dia takan bikem ni radio bulan to matra singa ke te lebu sana ba dur na mbaki ngo sianga mai Seattle sianga tale mai New York se mai we mai laie mai Hawaii ya ni to chu mai Hawaii ya ba ka nga me sa ba dur sa to kana singa ke te lebu mai na non to bono lo mai no bichuna.
Na watu tinga ni tukutukung na vesure te talitinga na bula mayongo na bula mayongo angor ne katin
katolisinga ya na no to songo ono foundation arto na buke chuki na tin kanto na kurni bule lo manesa na bagturong kandabu engo na to seafood banquet esa dabu chinga na chiki nango ono mai kandabu e vida toka na chain of islands vida toka na nyanu era dhiri toka mai na non tu sana bagturong kandabu ni dabuta ya na sasal ni waitu na ika sale kanam badi televigen to na kai koso na tanruku na kinabi matanggal en around na litobole na buku ni seafood banquet ngo o ya mai na Dio Ross Valley Drive, San Rafael, California kacin katolisinga di pulau kalau mai mana rua kena bitu nak keloko orton ki pama tata kana bi kato dok sar lepa ni bun turang sir mai ngir kiana sekurita mana donan raunan dola walangan tikit na kaurongo do chiko so sar bolita ka mai bango bolita ka bango sa bo leka sar chungu nioti na tikite en ngonongo
naka wasotia wotu tingani tukutuku na bula talangala ko mai na bulo mengo na bisuriti tungano to bisuriti tiko na Bula Bay volleyball team and na cover barrel night avakaidurutiko and na ikarua sanga buli singa ni bulo May mai na 5 na kaloko na kabi kena tinikan 2 na kaloko na mbongi 5 sanga bulo na dola na iduruduru o katiko na 5 sanga bulo na dola ngo na baka kabi na kena nguni ngo na kena bakarongo sere verto na bonga ke munia ro baka tabituki ani kina aucho sa teki waningolo ke chichiwa lomani ana karua sanga buli singa ni bulo May and na rua ndua Pa Saiba on 21406 Foothill Boulevard, mai Haywood and Eagles Hall. Na kena tukutuku matela lai nangai beauty ko ani na tikinduango kena radio bulandu vata Facebook page. Sabatongo itini kabana miniti me vitu na kaloko beito konitiko kena nonde rang mai balni songo na maolimat.
Klasa boleh bukan antara serban mungkin diri matokan ni bulu benang kini antara serban mungkin antara geng sto kongor tu semuanya mai Kent Washington mai Washington State bengo mai Kent bulu benang kadiri matokan apa bulu telang abi mare dalang abi sinton maramango maramani na uno mai wele buesta con rom do virtu no na no to zirtu ya mai ni ga itu na 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 muni korom blo tau o sa ngule da batale ni ko de siamo chu mai Liverpool mai Australia bakatala kina be so abatura ramban bulu benaka si mesa da matu tonga Miriam Leo Monge ka bakatala kina be erto na kena be mami no masikuri bakatala kina be Mr. Naisar en kabine be ngara be ndai kanu ni binaka bakatala kin be selai tila bulu binaka tahu binaka na siam talu chunga mai na eka bini bengarabi and then dai
Nanda ruturanga tau talinga diri motokana. Tau sea matiko mai Kent, Washington. Don bula binaka.
Bulu benak.
Na sea matiko mai wakatala kina bembui salakatia mai Santa Rosa. Ke kimdo ke desara na sea matiko ngori mai Santa Rosa wakakina. Ve kimdo na leo ni komiti ndo waka rotiko na vuko ni songo ni mataka na Women's Retreat. Kana waka idurutiko mai Sacramento. Bula binaka Mrs. Malo wakatala kina ve
Bula nau?
la take ve kata. Ve naka wakalevu na biuta bata tiko na ve kake de sara memba. Leti kanda tiko na marama. Kanda marama i tau keinda sama waka i tiko bolingo Amerika. Serango me na nomu ni kede ka wakaki na ve kiumni na venga ravi tiko. E na ve vanua kede sara ni venga ravi na longa niu ni vili niu tiko kina. E na ka vini kua go me na nomu ni.
Mai waini ka tawake mai zaka unropi. Vinaka wale bulau. Ma.
Dombula vinaka.
Essa é o topo, seu
Tu babi ti takamanda na serya.
Matanga untuk sanga untuk kila to balen ro sa nanronga. Mahila do bulan na nawe ka nanronga bat ke na bosa. Vambichia me hila tal koena.
Roni do vande o takamai.
Rongo re,
Iya rongo
La rome.
Rongo re bate kirtu mi bono lebu
Iya rongo re.
Rongo binaka.
Maduata.
Pada ba tau
Sia.
Dir mo to kana da mbeka na no munirai na.
Iya na
Será
seria.
nga bakrita ko gasni buli.
Iya gasni buli.
Kila na lebu ni bossa.
Lebu ni boss tunggo.
Do matanga nessa na vida ba tu kinto vida tolu sa
bul. Tol sa bul.
Kito matanga mi kandabu ya. Baka sama ta.
Kita main Islandi. Amerika do tensar. Korto na reda na boss Amerika. La Rome na Tamrewa. Wele.
Ayun daw diri sarto nga ni Roma ni Robi bosa kito.
Nda pulte gitu na lo menun revital no ay pambir to na kata bay nanrong ay. Yo mabuto una sa may tumbukian talaga nango na kabinangan niko sa may dapat talaga kito na mazao ni bing karabi dapat to kan may na monici tusite mburelulu singa dakuna singa faraite.
Singa faraite?
Ya to sa domingo na singa faraite. Dakuna niabi
singa dokonaki ni mataka.
Singa dokonaki ni mataka, singa ni bakambi bola, singa ni resu bola, singa ni Olha, sai lembra singa.
Yo, kau ni adalata na non rodo vital no tiko sa vida na madao non rodo vital no tiko mai tu pe kenga sini buli polang gereti. Au sereti kam ni ninga siko bayani na ni to YouTube channel o na radio bulando vata. Na YouTube esa ambiti ko ni kina na katu ni kede ni non rodo vital no tiko no turanga ruango na vida na madao sa mai na mai bakananda kuengo na madao na noa mai bakatangita kita kina na karua ni non rodo vital noa me bakania so turanga gas ni buli sa kotono bakanui ni to na mai ni na mai veto mani talitiko na madao mai ngo lotu lebu na madao mai ngo non da viti ana da ni programa tiko na beka ni lotu lebu sibina lima tu
Iya.
Non da viti
Non da viti sibina lima na tini na miniti na vea kavi ni lotu lebu. Iya.
E samai batonga i tolu na miniti me vitu na kaloko, samai dava talitunga kena no tangona vata e ne kavi ni koa, venaka wakalevu na ndau veto mani tuku mai, na ndau veto koni tuku mai. Kena nonda vata vatonga na radio mbulando vata, ke reitunga ke o ni sengai semabo mai, se o ni sembera ni wase tuku yani na nonda vata vatonga ke rauni o ninge wase toka yani, do na like, follow us, wakatelanga kena na Instagram, ke tu tiku talanga na Instagram, ke na YouTube channel.
Pandua.
Subscribe. Please subscribe. Follow us also on our YouTube channel.
Iya. Ya na kero na jina o ke baka kero na siya ni dabuto so na yadan ko. Baka ni binaka be. Oh baka total. Marieta lalang besi Miriama. Marieta Mboroa. Go mai wai ni ka tawa ko mo kila na marama tau benga go ndo bibi sau chuna no na kaunde ndo tal sa bosa me kina ya ke kemani na turanga marama terbu kina gone leo tau selai mai Sebastopol ke Milbray sa bago ni bina ka tu ni bike boni bina ka ndo sia matu mai na bia kabi to do sar so tala gore una si birindo sa ba
mele koto bula binaka mula mode pakanu ni binaka tikani bikem do menandawa na buku ni songo na single ni kua bakatela kina ve marama nontor marama na ita de galibutu
ni bula binaka
bula binaka mo simule bakatela kina ve bil rakaseka kana bakalo binaka na sema tiku mai sengatela ni ngule da bitikina o Miriam ni asa bakam bula be Miriam
iya sa ba ndor bakam bulan terus ana bakam mo talanga bira na ke binaka ni kua
Benaka valeu no mni tokani ona buninda kua ke ratu pedeli na novo maroi tiko na bulan tana game verongo din domo talitiko and kabi ni moniti.
Samo de if I can go back if I can go back to that time
bakarua nambula au ndonuya meu bakale suya tale no murarawa lemuna na utomu na yelo tatau na kabeao eu carona eu suba bakarua nambola awan donuya meu bakale suya tale no murara wale tukana na utomo na yalomo tatau na kabeyo meu carona e utongu
ka usaba ka nanderubi wasi juga nunggu ida buta na bitan longon na ngauna na sere. Sa dotu na nga son to. Okay, lalabo suri nunggu gabo gabo ka. Bata pa ka disabo lang dito na dito ka. No dito ka ni sing lalo to sunod tang gabo gabo ka. So ba go sini nakit lalo tal gabo.
Nissan Bulavinaka. Sama mai kawasean in a radio bulando mata San Francisco. Darungodi na tolu kina bito na kloka na kama ni moniti kina borobuka bei kema dawa ya Amerika. Tini kina ruona kloka na singa levo ni tusi di kina borowai bei kema dawa biti. Radio bulando mata San Francisco. Me kauti